Hi, this is the Teacher Education Program for Africa. My name is Alusine Barrie. This is the second part of the last session on Bloom's Taxonomy, the second episode. Um, Now we are going to turn our attention to the question stems, okay, how you use them. Like I told you in the assessment, like you have to find a particular topic that you would want to test out, okay? So you can look here and design questions. Ask, for example, you can ask children, describe something they've learned, okay? Um, State the names of the characters in this story, right? Draw the diagram of an insect. You can use all of these things, right? Amongst the following, select which words are nouns. Underline which words are present tense, past tense, okay? Um, and then, so but not just remembering, you can also come to understanding, ask children to interpret something, to distinguish what are the differences between this and that, okay? Describe, okay? You can ask children to summarize something, okay? Like I asked you this question here, if you can see. I say, write a 200-word summary of what you have learned in this session, right? So this helps to solidify your understanding, to see whether or not you've understood the concepts of this session, okay? So for example here, you can ask children, say for example you've chosen a topic, say bees, right? So your children you've gone on and discussed the life cycle of bees, what bees are, the economic importance of bees, um, how to raise bees, how to make money from bees, and all of these things. Then you can draw from all of that learning and ask your children different questions, okay? You can ask them to apply what they have learned to solve economic problems in their community. Like, how can you use your new learning about bees in order to improve the lives of people in your community? Right? So children can think about all of these things. You can ask children to justify certain things. For example, and this is why also Bloom's taxonomy is one part of what we assess in learning. Right? It assesses children's level of thinking, but there are all other two domains: the affective, which deals with children's attitudes and emotions. We also have the skills, the psychomotor. Okay, so you have to make sure you include other domains of learning, not just Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, not just the children's level of thinking. But now you can imagine including a question such as, is it for children to judge whether or not it's fair for people to take honey from beehives? Okay, because these are like moral questions. You think bees have raised their own honey, so why would humans take it? There can be justifications for that, but there can also be justifications on the other end. But the point is that children should be able to think, to evaluate for themselves, right, and to make judgments based on reasons. Okay, it's just to make sure that the children can think at these higher levels. Okay, um, you can ask them to create, you ask them to design a project, well, for them to devise a project or propose a project that they are going to launch in their community about raising beehives, or say for them to design a poster educating people about the importance of bees in their society. So all of these are questions you can ask that take the children from just remembering what you've taught them. Okay, so and that's the point with using Bloom's taxonomy. It is to initiate higher levels of thinking, not just the low levels of thinking, children to remember things. Okay, remembering is important because children need to know facts, concepts, methods, but they need to know how to apply these knowledge, facts, and methods or concepts into solving problems, to analyze situations, to make judgments, and to create new things. Okay, so for example, you can see these question stems. These actually are very helpful. The beginning is there. All you have to do is to add the end, right? So maybe you read them a story. How many pigs were in the story? Okay. You ask children to label something, right? To draw something, to write something they've learned, to recite a poem that you've taught them. These are all questions you can ask. You can ask children question one. Okay. You can say, write the first 3 lines of the poem Abiku. For instance, this is, I think, it's a poem children use in junior secondary schools in West Africa right now. So this is like a question, but it's like remembering, right? Because children will just have to think, oh, these are the first 3 lines. I remember the first 3 lines of Abiku, right? But then you can go on and ask the children to summarize the first stanza or the first. So you say question 2, for example, you say summarize the first verse, the first verse of the poem. So this one goes now from just children remembering what it is they know, but actually digesting it a little bit. Okay, moving from that and then trying to build their own knowledge around it. Okay, so they summarize the first verse of the poem. Ask children to paraphrase something. In fact, summary and comprehension questions are around these sorts of things. Okay, ask children to go and find out what questions would they have. Okay, ask them what questions would you ask about bees. All right, where would you apply your knowledge about data collection in your community? Say children, you taught children about statistics, and this is also the reason why certain subjects like maths, children avoid them, because children don't see the practical impact of these subjects. But look, say a subject like probability, like we are always making probabilities and making judgments every single day. Statistics, we always want to make decisions based on information. So when you bring these things to more of real life, to the application, children will be able to find it much easier. Okay, and they'll be able to achieve higher levels of thinking, which is what we want. You can ask children to distinguish between things. Can you distinguish between mammals and amphibians? Right? What differences exist between the different members in the bees colonies? Right? So maybe you have worker bees, you have different types of bees. What are the differences between these? Ask children to answer these sort of questions. Okay. Ask children to provide an example of something. Right? Ask children to define something based on information you've given them. And then for applying, you can ask children to solve problems. Well, of course, maths problems often have a lot of these sorts of things, chemistry problems, physics problems. Okay, you can ask children to apply what they've learned to solve a problem in their community or in their home, or how they will utilize this new learning. Right? You can ask children to analyze a particular situation. Right? To ask them to compare and contrast between the compare the cultures of the Fula and the Limba. These are questions you can ask that help children to be able to analyze different situations. Okay, you can ask children to identify particular problems, where problems came up in particular situations. These are all useful. Ask children to make judgments. Okay, judge, select, choose, justify. When you ask children these sorts of questions, they have to make decisions, but they have to back them up with reasons. And this is the thing you have to keep in mind when doing evaluations. Not just asking children and then to make a choice, but they have to give you reasons for why they chose a particular set of action. Okay, if they tell you it's okay for humans to use honey, to take honey from bees, they should be able to give you particular reasons why they think, and those reasons, the extent to which that reasoning is strong, is where how you evaluate their level of thinking as far as evaluating is concerned. Creating, right? Ask children to imagine they are bees and ask them to write a song about the contributions they do to society, right? Ask them to design a policy, ask them to write a project on that will change, improve the lives of people in their community that uses bees. All of these things are questions you can design on your own instead of just relying on copying past examination questions. You can use past examination questions to get some ideas, but you should design your own. Get experience from this design and ask me any questions you have. Okay, follow the links below for you to be able to get the attachments.